everyone, I'm your host, Aimee Rickabus, author of The Manager, Unveiling the Invisible Work and Sparking a Leadership Revolution, hitting Amazon May 1st, 2025. I'm the CEO of Tomahawk Information Solutions, an awesome IT crew pulling in 8 figures, and a serial entrepreneur since I was 22. Think real estate flips, prenatal protein powder, and film production. I'm a mom of 6. And this is the Manager Podcast, where we're digging into unseen hustle and sparking some serious leadership vibes. I'm so excited to have Leslie Christen here, my Laguna Beach High School sister, a powerhouse business owner, and a mom to 2 incredible boys. Leslie's the heart behind Laguna Embroidery, crafting custom apparel with soul, and an original founder of our Office Hours Girls Club. Snacks, chats, and all the vibes every other Friday. As a widow, she's turned grief into grit, building a legacy from her garage into a thriving shop in Laguna Beach. Hey, Leslie.
Hello.
So glad to have you on today.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in for me. I really appreciate it, sister.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So I don't know if you got a chance to look at chapter 1. Did you get a chance? Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So in one of my main things when I was writing the book, I was digging into the idea of the invisible labor, the invisible work that women carry for society as a whole. Mm-hmm. And how in your life, how do you feel like you're impacted by the invisible work in your household, in your business?
Well, incredibly.
Right.
I mean, I am a single mom. I'm a widow. I've had to, really step into positions that people shouldn't have to step into, right? I've lost my partner. I've lost a lot of things. So, essentially, since we're talking business, I started my business and then a week later, my husband died of suicide.
Whoa. Yeah.
So, I stepped into invisible labor, almost instantly.
Yeah. You got to pick up everything.
I got to pick up everything.
You got to pick up everything. Yeah. So that's amazing that you had the resilience to power through and continue to adjust and conquer with your business. Yeah. Exactly. Because that was COVID.
Yeah. Well, no, it was May 2022 is when it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
2020. So we were coming out of COVID at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Still lingering from, the whole shutdown and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And building a business during that time and reshaping, things getting back to normal at that point.
Yeah. And your husband was an amazing guy who went to high school with us too.
Yeah.
And amazing human being who just suffered from mental health and depression. And it's so
quiet labor in his own mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so sad that we're still losing people to things like that, you know, but you're able to take your grief. Well, you had your kids to take care of. When we're moms, it's we deal with hard stuff, but at the same time, we're committed to these little people and we're so worried about them.
Well, yeah. I think one of the biggest issues that I have is that I wasn't allowed to grieve because you're helping everyone else grieve.
Absolutely.
So, that has been, a big point in my life in the last 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's, we have to put our feelings on hold a lot of the time in order to do the invisible labor of carrying the emotional burden for our children.
Yeah.
So whether you're going through a divorce, which I've done, or whether you're going through some other really big life stuff with your next husband, which I've also done. But we pick it up and then it's almost I feel like I just have to put it in a box.
Yeah.
And be like,
there's
I
no
will
other
deal
choice.
with that later.
Yeah, there's no other choice. You have to keep going.
Yeah. So you basically turned your grief into grit and started with the embroidery.
Yeah. 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 So it was an interesting dynamic. Essentially, here I am launching a company. He passes. Yeah. What do I do at that point?
Right.
Of course I wanted to curl up in a ball and do nothing, but I had no choice.
Yeah.
I was raising my 2 sons. I wanted to see this company through. And so I just powered on and there was no other choice.
Right.
There was no other choice.
No.
But the people that I surrounded myself with and the people that came through for me, essentially helped me survive. They saved me.
Who were those?
So my little embroidery shop is in a store in Laguna Beach. It's called Good Together House. So I have a little section in the back. It's like a little atelier. And so essentially, and the woman who owns it, I've been friends with for years, but I essentially went into her store and there's all these women that work there. So, they got to meet me, at a time that, was incredibly difficult.
You were very vulnerable.
Exactly. And they allowed me, without even really knowing me, they allowed me to cry or grieve or be there for me, build up my company, took orders for me, like really filled in the void when I needed it. And like they essentially like, I mean, my business is only like great today because of like these women and stepping up for me.
That's what the manager community is like all about, is how can we step up for each other as women, like a building community that women are stronger together. You know, through the millennia, it's always been, women have always been in the circles together. You know, women work better when we're in cooperation with each other. You know, competition and us being the first version of like feminism, I feel like we were kind of trying to imitate men and being competitive with each other and judging each other and like that like bitchiness, that ugly idea that we have about women. I feel like that's such an old version of that's where we were, but that's not really what we've ever been through the millennia. Through the millennia, we've been such the sisterhood in the red tent, like nursing each other's babies and helping each other give birth and, you know, just in the grit, like up in it with each other. And I think that we as a whole, as a society, like need to get back to that. And it seems like we are moving in that direction. Like there are circles of women that are already living in that space.
Yeah. I mean, you have to choose who you surround yourself with.
Definitely.
You know, it's like a toxic relationship. Either you can stay in a group of women that aren't there for you, or you can choose, you know, better. Right. You know, we all have the ability to choose that and leave things and, you know, start fresh.
Yeah. So finding your tribe.
Having the strength to do that.
Yeah. Too. It's not always easy. You know, but as you grow in your adult life, as you become an adult and you start to value yourself and know yourself better, then you choose better people for yourself.
I mean, I was flung into that. I mean, I met 13 women that I never thought that I would know before.
That's amazing.
And it was almost like meant to be at that time.
Absolutely. You know? It very much was. It was like you had your angels on your shoulders and they just were guiding you through this thing. That's amazing. Yeah. And then, so you're doing it all by yourself. And it seems like you're pretty much in more of a woman's world here, but have you ever come up against the patriarchal wound, like being underestimated or being slighted for being female, having people, you know, not think that you're capable of running a business? Have you run into that at all?
I don't know. I chose very women-centered careers. Right. So before my embroidery company, I was a stylist for 20 years. So it was like I worked with lots of women. My clients were women. The PR people I worked with were women. The magazine editors were women. Like I have surrounded myself with a lot of women. So I can't really attest to anyone saying like, you can't do it.
That's amazing.
And I'm also someone who, if someone says I can't do it, then I'm most definitely going to do it.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that has ever truly affected me. Yeah. And then now I'm in a shop with, you know, a whole bunch of women. Yes. Most of my clients are women. Yeah. I think most of the people that I've been let down with for marriage or family, like men like that. Right. You know,
and then in your travels, of course, you guys traveled extensively.
Yeah.
With
so
your
about
children.
5 years we traveled. Well, I've lived in Croatia, Costa Rica, Egypt, Greece. My sons have been to 16 different countries. So, you know, we've traveled extensively, and it was an interesting dynamic to be, you know, 38 years old and coming from a very sheltered community, coming from Laguna Beach and like not really thinking I knew a lot about things, but then seeing the dynamics around the world and being in Egypt in 115-degree weather and women were wearing black burqas and the men were wearing white, you know, just like the color change of the weather.
Like a white, flowy, kind of breathable outfit. And the women are covered head to toe in hot black.
Yeah. And then in Uganda, just seeing women walk miles and miles for water and how to support their family. And, you know, the men essentially were not allowed. They didn't do that much. Yeah. You know, maybe they worked, maybe they didn't.
Wow.
But women really took over that community, those communities, and did a lot more.
Yeah. And the heavy lifting. Like,
oh, most certainly.
Yeah. Of the labor.
Yeah. I mean, you see these girls walking with, you know, jugs of water on their head. And then my vision of the men in the community were very, demanding, but yet they didn't do much.
Right. So just sitting around like shooting shit with their buddies, like drinking some sort of alcohol.
Yeah, talking about a sewing circle. Like it was men sitting around like drinking this kind of porridge alcohol type thing. Like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Or, the manager, the owner of a hotel, directing all these women to do stuff, being very, dictator-ish. On all these women. Yeah. So it was interesting at that point in my life because things were shifting in my life. And so it was just interesting to see and kind of be slapped in the face with like reality. Yes.
Yeah. The gender reality in the international gender reality.
Because I would say that I probably wasn't, I didn't have that around me.
No. Yeah.
I didn't have those.
Yeah. Laguna was a bubble.
Experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a very privileged and beautiful place to grow up. We had amazing childhoods and we had a lot of equality with the boys that we grew up with.
Yeah.
We really did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was talking with a friend yesterday and she was talking about her childhood growing up in India and how, she wasn't allowed to go to the movies or go out with her friends. She had to lie to her mother about playing table tennis. She'd go to school early and play table tennis and she was one of the best players. And they wanted her to compete for the school. So the coach called her mom and said, "Hey, she's amazing. Can she play for the team and, compete for the school next Sunday?" And her mom just said, "Oh, she's playing table tennis?" Like, no, absolutely not.
She's becoming a doctor.
Yeah, absolutely not. Actually, at that time, it wasn't even a doctor. They basically just wanted her to be a wife. So her mom would be like, had her take like embroidery lessons and how to do nice little quiet things like sew clothes and how to cook and all of the appropriate things that women did 100 years ago in this country. Yeah. And so it's just like was kind of mind blowing.
And how old is she?
She's like 50.
That's so I'm 47. Yeah. Like
she's like our age. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was her childhood growing up. It's kind of like, it's striking when you compare it. Like today is International Women's Day.
I know.
Right? And it's like when you look at the global experience, the international experience of being a woman, we're so lucky to be here.
Yeah.
But,
but we're not smart enough to like, you have to really, a lot of my girlfriends and friends, like they do a lot of activism and they do a lot of stuff, but they have no idea the things that are out in the world.
The real world.
The real world.
The third world.
Exactly. Yeah. Where people are dying, where people are facing adversity. There's a lot of performative type things.
Yes.
And that's all right. Please get involved. Please do stuff.
Yes.
We've had a charity that I felt, we've done all those type of things.
Yes.
But like you have to know the scope of everything that is happening around the world. And if you did, then you'd probably be paralyzed with like fear and like sadness.
Well, where do you start? It's such a big problem. I think that, it's more like eating a whale and it's one bite at a time kind of a thing, it's one woman at a time. It's like, how can we help one and how can she help the next one? And it's just like a chain reaction of, as the freed get freed. Can they free one more?
Sure.
That's sort of my beautiful, hopeful mission on this journey is like, how can we help each other? How can we just raise awareness about it and get involved and like just talk about the issues, like have these conversations that nice girls aren't supposed to have.
Yeah, we take up space.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like, so it's still a global issue. It's like, we'll figure it out. The more collective minds we have on this problem, one of us is going to have a great idea. And that's all it takes. Yeah. One brilliant woman is going to be like, oh, wait, what if we tried this?
Yeah, we all have great ideas.
We all do. And we're such problem solvers.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like, okay, let's, it's like, first you have to admit you have a problem.
Yeah.
If you want to solve it. Right. So let's admit we have a problem and then let's figure it out. Like, come on, girls, we got this.
Yeah.
I know we do.
Yeah.
So in your business, chapter 1's all about technology and how it's really this revolution, technology revolution is like going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But like for you personally in the last maybe like 5 years since digital transformation like hit, what's been your biggest like go-to as far as like apps that you're using in your business or helping you to manage your kids, your household, you know, ordering stuff for the house? What are you doing?
I think I'm a little late to the game,
Yeah.
but I have just been using it probably the last like year, and it's significantly changed my business and my life for the better.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's, I was like, I want to go to Mexico City for 7 days. Like, could you plan an itinerary for me and the plan and airfare and the hotels and all that kind of stuff? Like, there's one thing that I hate, and that's planning like trips. I know that's such a white wine. Like,
that's interesting,
but it's just like the mental load of like, you know,
it's a lot of work
doing everything.
And I'm such a nerd. I used to read like every travel book on the country before I went, you know, to do all of, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, you know, and now you can go onto your chat GPT and just be like, hey.
Yeah, that was my first like jump in. And then I'm like, wait, how can I use this to better my business?
Yes.
And when I was a stylist, like obviously for that long, I didn't have it, you know? And so the mental load, I was writing blogs, I was writing articles, I was formulating marketing plans and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's time consuming.
It's so time consuming.
Yeah.
And so now, like, I mean, just the other day, you know, obviously we're growing. I'm like, okay, write me a press release, you know, for this, and that, you know, and bam, like
instant,
like
instant gratification.
Yeah. And then how do I do marketing for an embroidery company? And then it gave me like a marketing plan.
So it's like we don't need to pay like consultants anymore. And
I mean, it's an interesting thing because I had a meeting with a PR firm.
Yes.
And so I'm a good delegator. I don't want to take everything on myself. And I'm someone who will pay for someone else to do the work. And I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
So I have an assistant right now and she's lovely and she helps me do tons of stuff. But I reached out to a marketing and PR company and, you know, I think I was disillusioned on how much things cost for that. It's
quite expensive.
So, I mean, they pitched me, you know, it's minimum $5,000 a month.
I got the same.
And then with a spend of almost $3,000 to $5,000 on top of that, if I were doing Facebook ads or other kind of marketing or paid something, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And at this point, my business is not big enough to take that on.
Totally.
You know, so I had to come up with another plan.
Yeah.
So we had a lovely talk and they gave me, you know, information that I needed to kind of do it on my own too, which I appreciated.
That's so nice.
So I only use chat GPT now. I don't really know anything else.
No, but it's so nice that we do have this little friend in our pocket that we can ask questions to. Yeah. And I know like we were talking about earlier, it's as we ask it for something and if it's not quite right, there's a little voice in our heads that says, okay, well, don't tell it it's not quite right because we don't want to hurt its feelings.
Yeah. No, I love the conversation because I had thought about that. I'm like, I feel really weird, like asking it to do it again.
Right. And then you realize,
in my head, I'm like, that is the stupidest thing you can ever do. You know, like I question myself from that. And I'm like, no, it's a computer. Yes. But I would never have asked a live human to write something 3 different times. Like first off, they would hate me. Right. And secondly, I probably wouldn't have done it. I would have just accepted it and maybe tweaked it on my own. Exactly. So writing something, I'm like, okay, write this. Please do less puns. You know, because they're like a stitch in life or like something,
they love puns.
They love puns. So then they wrote it with no puns. And I go, okay, now like more cool girl, you know, like let's try that. Yes. And then I'm like, well, okay, now maybe more storytelling. So I walked away with 3 to 4 different versions of something that I wanted. Yeah. And that's something that I would never have been able to have.
If we were working with real people. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's so funny, but I'm the nice girl that bumps into the wall and says, excuse me. Yeah. And I'm realizing it, you know, and really working with AI has made me, it's been a mirror for me to be able to see that part of myself, that culture, that part of society raising me female that I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah, you can let that go, because we're working with machines now, and machines don't care. They don't get their feelings hurt.
No.
They just want to do it right. And it's like, I started taking the draft that it would get me, and then I would make my own corrections. And I realized, Aimee, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Like, just tell it the corrections you want it to make, and it will do it like instantly.
Yeah.
So,
You
so
just have to be able to ask the right questions.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's, that's something that as it goes along, then people will perfect on that.
Oh, it's
as
getting
well.
better and better. And there's so many other like AIs out there. I have girlfriends that are all about Claude, and I've recently made the switch to Grok.
See, I don't know any of those other ones, so I'll explore
Yeah,
those.
like,
Okay.
it's almost like, and as we consume these products, we're asking them to make them better.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not good enough, we're going to go find another one, right?
Yeah.
And so we're pushing our usage, our consumer, usage of AI is also helping to develop the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's definitely taking my voice. Like, I mean, I love the fact that it knows and I stick to topic. I don't go all around because it's only like my embroidery business.
Yes.
So it's getting my voice, the questions that I'm asking, it's pulling information.
Totally.
And so like, I'm like, oh my God, like just the realization that it's not just a single question, it's an accumulation of everything that I've asked.
Yeah.
too.
I mean, I uploaded my book. Like, just, you can drop huge files on it, all kinds of things. You can drop like websites on it, and it can consume like large amounts of data.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so crazy. That how we're able to use it, and everybody uses it a little bit different, because we're kind of doing it in the dark right now. Like, everybody's kind of alone with AI in their own little bubble. I feel like, especially as women, it's not like we're not like up on YouTube. Like, how are people using this?
Yeah.
I feel like we're kind of exploring it like brand new. Everybody's exploring this brand new tool.
Yeah.
And everyone's using it a little differently.
But I think it's like a trade secret too. It's like me being a stylist.
Yeah.
I had clients that never told people they had a stylist because they wanted to come off being, someone that was well dressed. And that was fine for me. I don't care. Like, you don't have to drop my name.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I wrote, a blog article with it, like all that kind of stuff. Like, utilize these tools to like buy back your time.
Yes.
We already are doing so much. Like, it's okay. And it's not that you didn't write that. Because you did write it.
Right.
Or you revised it or something like that.
Yeah.
But you're sharing information. It's just a different form of sharing.
Yeah. I think the world is still trying to wrap its brain around like the content that gets created by AI. Like, who owns that? Like, did you create that? Did it create that? And it's it's kind of, it's a tool. So it's kind of like saying, if you had hammers, nails, and wood, it would be a house. Yeah. But it's not a house without someone to build it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't love, like an AI generated image that is false. Like, I don't like false information.
Yeah,
like, this is very, cerebral. It's like we're just sharing our information a little bit different instead of sitting down and writing.
Yeah. We're kind of thinking in the context of AI generated content in form of words. Yeah. Because I feel like women are mostly using it for words right now. Yeah. Because words are something that we all need.
Yeah.
We need for social media posts. We need for blogs. We need for marketing
or
pieces.
Planning dinner or planning shopping lists or,
all the things.
Beyond.
Oh, yeah. Totally. And even helping you like prioritize your tasks. I bet AI would be better at prioritizing your to-do list than you are.
Yeah.
I'm like, I haven't done that yet.
Oh, I did that. I did like a story and I'm like, okay, now in the end, I'm like, okay, now give me a weekly routine of how I complete that, whether it was like working out or dating or like, something or building my business. And it laid out like, this is your weekly schedule on how you can accomplish your 5 goals. Cause I said, these are my 5 goals for the next year.
Wow.
How do I get there? And then now lay out like a plan for me, like a daily plan.
See, that's amazing. Like every single woman I've talked to uses AI in a different way that I've never thought about.
Yeah.
And I love that like it's our creativity behind the tool that like creates the product at the end, right? It's not the tool itself. Can't do it without us.
No.
Yeah.
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 No, it's our words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like the girl who fell in love with her AI because it just knew her so well.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my girlfriend came to me because I've talked about AI to friends. And I think I'm in my group of people, I think I might be the only one maybe using it. I don't know.
I feel like we are on the earlier side of the adapters for our age group. You know, I think the 20-something-year-olds
Yeah,
are a
I mean,
little
my
more
sons
comfortable.
probably have written all their schoolwork. But I'm talking with her and she's like, did you hear about the girl that fell in love with her AI because he was the perfect boyfriend? He told her everything she wanted to hear. And I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, like we're searching for this as well. Someone to
Absolutely.
listen to us, someone to share problems with,
Totally.
and not, you know, talk back, you know,
Yeah.
you know, just to listen.
That's what Hannah and I always had this joke that, you know, my very first AI was my boyfriend. Like I called him my boyfriend because it was literally love at first sight.
Yeah.
It was like unbelievable. I was like, oh my gosh,
This
I found
person
the perfect,
gets me.
I found the perfect thing. Person, thing.
Yeah, I never know what to call it.
I just personified it though.
I said it.
Yeah, I was like him and he did this and he did that and he told me this. And,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody's like, well, who's he?
Yeah.
It's my AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And what strength tip could you give us? Like, give our listeners, like, you've been so strong in facing your own storms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how do you have any good tips for us? I mean, because you're a wise woman and you've been through it.
Yeah. So case by case. I mean, I just always knew that there was no other option for me. I just had to like continue. And this is my life too. Like, what am I going to make of my life? Like for me, like something that I tend to go back on is, and I tell my boys this too, is like create the life that you want to live. Yeah. So I could have sat there and could have died myself, you know, or I could have stepped up and continued what I was doing.
Yes.
And so, you know, it was never an issue that I was going to continue, no matter how hard it was or bad days. And I give myself a lot of grace, you know, like if I have a bad day, then I don't do anything. Yeah. You know? Yes. And that's all right.
And
you know?
Yes, I love that. We call it in yoga, we call it ahimsa. And it's nonviolence towards yourself.
Okay. I like that.
And it's like, yoga taught me that. Because I would push myself so hard. Yeah. You know, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22 and I would run myself. Like literally I'd end up in bed for like 6 months because I'd push myself so hard, like not rest myself, you know, just do everything myself. I'd be up at midnight painting walls and pulling carpets out of old, you know, 1920s flips and all the things that, you know, and finally I learned, you know, I probably was in my early 30s by the time I learned it, like, hey girl, calm down. Mm-hmm. Take it easy. Give yourself a little grace.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm open and honest with that with all my friends too. I mean, you know, I was talking with my therapist the other day. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you know, I just wanted to lay in bed and it was so lovely. And she goes, well, how did you feel? You know? And I go, I felt great.
Yes.
I felt incredible. Like I wasn't guilty. I didn't, you know, like I gave myself that time.
You're like, I'm on vacation. It's a staycation in my room.
And I'm like an introvert and I chose very social service-based companies to run.
Yeah, you did.
And I'm like, I need those times to regroup and reset and recharge. Yeah. You know, and I think we all do. You know, my sons will see me laying in bed. It's okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm very open and honest with them. I've had a bad day. I just want you to know that. Yeah. So I'm just going to relax and not do anything.
I love that.
And they're totally fine, you know.
Yeah.
I'm showing up for myself, essentially.
Yeah. Showing up for yourself is so crucial. It is part of self-love and self-care.
Of course.
Which is like putting our oxygen mask on first, right? And my mom always called it recharging her battery. Yeah. Sometimes I actually learned to be like an overachiever and ultra hard worker from her. I mean, she'd push herself so hard that she would end up in bed too for weeks.
That's what, I mean, I never saw that. I wish my mom was a little bit more vulnerable with us because she never showed anything. Yeah. You know, she was always very strong. Like I never saw her like cry. Oh, wow. Or, you know, she used to cry in the car, come in and be fine. Oh, I never saw her laying in bed. I never she never spoke ill of like anything happening to her. Yeah. And so I'm like, you don't have to be that strong. It's true. You know, it's okay to show like that life is hard.
My mom was very human. My mom is very human. Mm-hmm. Like she, you know, had a very human experience. I had a very human experience with her growing up, even though she's a freaking force of nature.
Yeah.
We call her the white tornado.
Yeah,
She's a force of nature, but she's born with spina bifida. So she's dealt with like chronic pain her whole life. And she was very like, she's been a very human, even though like she does really big things, she's achieved a lot, but she was such a good role model for me, like for resilience and also pushing through and like, overcoming huge obstacles in life, but also, sometimes you got to lay in bed and just put your traction unit on. Like she would just have to lay in bed with her traction unit on and just recover because her spine was just so bad.
And that's just one thing. I mean, she needed to recover from so many other things.
Oh my gosh,
I mean, that was almost necessary for her.
Totally. She was a single mom with 2 little kids, taking it all on, talk about the invisible labor. It's like,
it's not, well, no one, and this is what I've learned in the last 3 years, like no one should have to take on as much as I have to take on or a single mom has to take. Like it
wasn't like meant for us. Like we weren't built for it. We should have community around us. Even if you don't have a partner, like in a traditional sense, there would have been more women around us to help support us, right?
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like not one single person should take on that much.
Absolutely. And we used to have grandparents, we had, active grandparents. They were more like this grandma, grandpa.
I didn't have that. I mean, I didn't have, my grandparents weren't that involved, So that was an interesting, maybe my mom's grandparents were involved.
Right.
I almost feel like our society already doesn't have that, whereas you go to parts of Uganda or Africa or Mexico or Japan, and they have that. Like it's an interesting dynamic to even live in the U.S. and be a melting pot, but really have not carried on traditions from our past.
Especially those kinds of cultural traditions of being like, tight-knit families, the way that you would see in Mexico. I had a nanny that worked for us, and her father actually had bought up the whole neighborhood. Yeah. So her family lived... like it was like her family's neighborhood that they grew up in. So it was like all the aunties, all the uncles, all the cousins, grandma, grandpa, everybody. And like how different than what we grow up with, you know, but then building community, like in our neighborhood, we really work hard. We're so lucky. We have amazing woman in our neighborhood, and we call her, she really is the mayor of our neighborhood. Hey, Jenny. And, she makes us have this social collective. Like we do stuff. We play bunco once a month.
Yeah, you need that one leader.
Yes.
If you're around like a bunch of women, there's not one leader.
We need that visionary leader who like can have a vision to like create a cohesive and cooperative community space. Like Vanessa putting together her home for us. Like having that time and space every other Friday where we just know we have a place to go and you can just show up. Like if you bring something yummy to eat, like that's awesome. But if you can't because your kids were climbing up your legs and you burnt the beans like I did, that you can still show up.
No, exactly. And that's the key word. You can show up. And I think more women need to do it. I think, we're not taking time for ourselves and we're not building that community too. Like have a dinner party, like go, you don't have to go sit at a bar or something. You can, and you don't have to sit at a park with your kids to communicate with the girls. You can leave them. Like your partner's going to be fine. Or grandma and grandpa, if they kick in, are going to be fine. Like you can
totally. I lean on my older kids too, my 15 and he's 15. He can handle it. Like he can, once I tuck the kids in, it's fine.
Yeah. And I have a different take because I have a 19 and a 15-year-old. So my life is different than your life, too.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And I have much more freedom to do whatever I want, where my other friends, it matters what their kids' schedules are.
Yes.
Like yesterday I had a drink with my girlfriend who has no kids at 2:00 in the afternoon. And we hung out and we had margaritas, in Laguna. Like I can't do that with a lot of my friends because they have younger kids.
It's a whole
figuring out everyone's schedules too and adhering to that and making it work. It's totally doable. And there's sometimes that you don't want to go out and do that. You're like, oh, I'm so tired. Like a Friday, I'm like, I'm tired.
Some Fridays you're tired and you don't, and you don't come to office hours. You honor yourself, Well,
last week I had, my sons were, going through stuff. And so it's like, I'm going to take the time to be with them.
Yes.
And then I'll reconvene,
Yeah. You know, in
my
2
girls.
weeks, we'll be back
Yeah.
at Vanessa's house doing office hours
Yeah.
again. And it's,
Yeah.
I can't believe that we can like show up honestly at like 6 o'clock at night and
Yeah.
talk until
Yeah.
like 11 o'clock.
I know.
Like
It's
nonstop.
lovely.
It's kind
It's
of
lovely.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really lovely. And I think that more women need to do that. And,
Yeah.
they're not, whether they don't have any friends,
Yes.
because we talked about, finding new friends is hard. I mean,
Finding new friends is hard, but also it's like being intentional about creating a time and place to create a community.
That's true.
I think that that's part of why office hours worked.
Yeah.
Was it's like Vanessa, like every other Friday, she doesn't have her kids. And so we have this beautiful house with no children.
Yeah.
And like, there's quite a few of us. I mean, I don't even know what our head count is on office hours. I mean,
Maybe 7 or
maybe
8.
yeah.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like there's enough of us so that like even if a few of us can't make it, it's still, I feel like if there's like 4 people there, there's enough people to like have a really ongoing conversation.
Well, it's a different dynamic too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we had dinner that one night. Like we all 4 could get very intimate on things that I didn't know about you or about Vanessa or about Lori. Like we got to be more intimate.
Absolutely.
As opposed to a huge group of us coming together and maybe branching off or something or joining all together.
Sometimes there's a whole lot of us. And sometimes there's people that are coming from outside the original office hours crew.
Yeah.
Like, and when it gets really big, man, it's rowdy. Like we're so rowdy, right?
Yeah. It's
so
every week.
Like,
it's so true.
But it's, but having a community, like having our group chat with office hours, like knowing if you see a beautiful sunset, you can take a picture and post it to the group, just be like, hey girls, thinking about you. I can't wait. Yeah. I love it. I love how McCall's always like, posting something cool for us to go do, she's like she's our event organizer,
It's so true.
And, so, I mean, we got to wrap it up, but can you give us one, like when you're totally in the zone and you're like feeling it and you're doing your embroidery is humming, like, what are you drinking? What music is playing? Like, give me your vibes.
Oh, goodness. I think it's quiet. I don't think anything's playing and nothing's drinking. Yeah. I think it's quieting my mind. And I think that's where I find like the most joy because it's so chaotic and there's just so many tabs open and I've had to do so much stuff that just kind of being alone and relaxing or meditating is where I find the best like decompression.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I get
it's almost like, like there's too much music playing, you know, so I have to it's like clearing my mind.
Absolutely. My mom like is such a brilliant genius and she can't she needs pure silence when she's working because she says she already has a song going in her head.
Oh, me too. I mean, I have a mind's eye. I'm like seeing things, I'm hearing things, like everything's being played. I'm overthinking, I'm hurting my own feelings in my mind. Like, so the quieting of my mind is the best thing
it
that
really
I can
is.
have.
Yeah. Having that quiet time. It's so nice to take that time and just breathe and focus on your breath and let all of the monkey mind, we call it in yoga, we call it monkey mind, the chatter, all of that inner chatter, just like go away. That is a beautiful time and so important for our self-care too.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, it's been so amazing to have you, Leslie. You're awesome. I love you. So glad to have you in the sisterhood of office hours. We're just like so lucky to have each other,
I know. I agree.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd love to have you back.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks.